Next Radio 2018 with Broadcast Bionics. Next Radio.
First time in London. Oh, wow. Excellent. Everyone's been really friendly and helpful to me. Someone actually came up to me at lunch and said, it's so good that you still do these sort of radio events. And I thought, that's nice, but a bit strange. And as they were walking away, a thought hit me that they think I'm Carl Pilkington. Judging by your reaction, I think you know what I'm talking about. I have come all the way from Australia, and I've spent about 20 years in radio in Australia. And I loved generating ideas. I was in very creative roles, either in content programming, across sales, sponsorship, promotions, integration. And I'm probably going to talk the least about radio today, but I'm going to talk about what I think is the most important thing, which is generating ideas, because that's what I'm really passionate about now, the creation of ideas and how ideas are created. Because without ideas, you've got a lot of transmitters, and that's it. Presenters give us ideas, musicians give us ideas, great production people give us ideas. And without ideas, and if we don't take a proper look at the idea generation process, pretty much we do what everyone else in the Western world does, is brainstorming. So I'm going to help you understand some of the science as to why brainstorming is, now I'm too polite and I've just met you so I'm not going to say the word, but as Matt said, brainstorming is BS, and show you some alternatives for what's next. So we'll get underway. Oh, sorry, I've been asked, there's a bit of housekeeping. So it is a birthday here today. So would you mind all joining me when it gets to the person's name whose birthday it is? It'll come up on the screen. So ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Yeah. Happy birthday to you. So brainstorming is 70 years old. Yeah. In fact, it's so old that if it was a person, it would look something like this. Now, hang on a minute. I love Chris, but I just want to point out something about his SEO strategy. When I put Old Guy Radio UK, he came up. So I think he might need to work. Don't worry about the money, Chris. Just get some search going. Probably more accurate that brainstorming, if it was a person, looks like this, because this is the guy who's credited as creating brainstorming. His name is Alex Osborne, and he was an advertising guy in New York. And in 1948, he put together a technique which has been popularised as brainstorming. And let's cross live now to a brainstorm from 1948. And wow, how innovative that looks at the time. If you can just make out on the top right-hand corner there's actually a sheet on the wall that says brainstorming ground rules. But my contention to you is this looks very similar to a lot of brainstorms that happen 70 years later. Sure, we now have the sticky notes, we have butcher's paper, and maybe a chalkboard's been replaced by a whiteboard, but the techniques are largely the same. And the trouble with the techniques is they are fundamentally flawed. And this is not me saying this is a heap of science and a heap of research from really well-established and well-credentialed organisations. The trouble is this research has been known for many years and ignored because we don't know what to do apart from brainstorm. So, the scientists say brainstorming is no good, and as Matt said before, brainstorming, it is bullshit. It's no good. We might need a bit more volume on the bullshit if we don't mind. Sorry, I said it. Didn't say it. So brainstorming is bullshit. Let me tell you why. So the rules of brainstorming are largely the same, which is, number one, people are more creative when they're in a group, right? So you can have idea sessions or creativity on your own, but you get people in a group and we're going to be more creative. Bullshit. No. Not true. What does the science tell us? In studies dating back to 1987, it's been overwhelmingly proven that people create more innovative ideas when they're on their own. So they had people create ideas on their own and put them in a group, and the innovation related to the ideas was much stronger when people were doing it themselves. But we just default, don't we? If we think we're in an office environment, we're going to create an idea, we better get the gang together. We better have a brainstorm. Don't do that. Number 2 rule, quantity is more important than quality. Has everyone been in a brainstorm where someone said, we need lots and lots and lots of ideas? It's really, really important. Bullshit. No. The science says that as the quantity of ideas increases, the quality of the idea decreases. Why are we having the session again? Because we want really good ideas. But the trouble is we get lost because what usually happens is one person who's not the most creative but the most confident will go first in the session. They go, I've got an idea. And they go along with it. And what happens after that is largely iterations of groupthink because no one wants to look silly. And the guy who's the most most confident, has gone first and has told you their idea. And what happens after that is that everyone's trying to compete and you think you've got to get more out. No, we don't want quantity in an idea session or a brainstorm, we want quality. But brainstorming rules tell us we need more. Okay, number 3, it is better to defer judgment during a brainstorm. Right, better to defer judgment. Bullshit. No, it's not. No, why? Because we know a bad idea when we hear one. Right? We're in a session and someone says, wouldn't it be great if we get the breakfast person to blah, 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 and instead of going, nah, not going to happen, we be polite, don't we? We go, that's really interesting. Can we work on that a bit more? But our instinct tells us that's not going to work. Psychological studies have proven that it's overwhelmingly the case we ignore our gut instincts. And if you read any of Malcolm Gladwell's work, he's done a lot of work, particularly in his book Blink, which is brilliant around how our instinct is often proven to be right, but we look for ways to rationalise outside of that because we don't trust ourselves. We think, maybe there's something more. And the rules of brainstorming compound that thought because they think, well, what you've got to do is be really careful and polite. And so we'll sit here for 45 minutes while we be polite to everyone. We're not there to be polite, we're here to get greater ideas. And the final rule of brainstorming is that good ideas can come from anyone. Bullshit. No, they don't come from everyone. So it's lovely that you want to invite Doris from the accounts department in to make her feel part of it, but she's not going to have a great idea, I'm sorry. And the reason this is important to understand is the overwhelming evidence is that people who create more innovative ideas have been practicing their craft since childhood. So, I think Ollie might have mentioned the idea from Laurie about the Triple J1 on House 100. Laurie was a creative guy already. He just happened to have that idea. We're talking about don't get people in the room or in a session who aren't creative just to be polite. Okay? So, now, the science, I've read all the science to save you the time, and I've only got 18 minutes, so I didn't want to take you through all the research. But large organisations have spent decades looking into it, and the overwhelming evidence is that brainstorming in the traditional method, which is those sort of rules, is one of the least effective ways to generate ideas. Now, can you think of anything else that we would do in our business where it's been proven by science that it doesn't work and we would continue to do it? This is the one. And the main reason is because people don't know anything different. You can work at any organisation, whether it be radio or non-radio, media or non-media, and what happens is people say, let's have a brainstorm. And from now on, when people say that, I want you to let out a really big groan. I want you to go, ah, and then just say this. It's been proven to be one of the least effective ways to generate ideas. So, instead of brainstorming, what do? Let's talk about what's next. I'm sorry, I just like saying that. I like him saying it. So, let's talk about the ideas process. So, this is what I like to practice with all the clients that I work with, whether it be media or non-media. And it's really about not setting rules that can be limiting to the idea generation process. It's about trying to open up ways of working which can be adapted to your organisation or your team or yourself. So there really are 2 ways we generate ideas. The first way is by ourselves, and the second way is with other people. So let's start with ways you can generate or create ideas on your own. Okay, so the first thing you can do that's more important than a brainstorm is to start with ingredients. So what ingredients are is it's not starting with a blank page. Has anyone heard that phrase? I'll start with a blank page. No, that's the worst thing you can do. And anyone who's looked at a blank page trying to create ideas would agree with you, because you sit there at your computer with nothing on it, or a pad with nothing written on it, and the fear and the anxiety of trying to have to come up with an idea is overwhelming. Chefs don't go into the kitchen and invent vegetables. They don't go, well, you know what I'd really love? I think I'll create a carrot. What they do is they take a carrot, they take a bit of meat, they take a bit of stock and some spices, and they use those ingredients to create something new, right? So they're constantly using ingredients. And cooking and creativity have a great symbiotic relationship. What you want to do when you're creating is you want to start with things. So if you want to start with something in terms of generating ideas, find bits that relate to it. So if you've got an advertising brief for Nando's chicken, go and get the chicken. Go into a Nando's. Go somewhere where it inspires you and use some tools to start. If you start with nothing, you're not going to get the most inspirational idea. You must start with some ingredient that's going to help you start to cook the meal. The second thing is to, the fourth thing, let's go back. The second thing is to go for a drive. Okay? Driving, who has great ideas when they're driving? Yeah. Why is that, do you think? Your eyes are concentrating on the road. Your hand might be sort of playing with the phone, you're not meant to, but by and large, using the major sense to keep an eye on the road, which means your mind is free and you're more occupied with other thoughts. So channel that thought in. So rather than go into a brainstorm, get in the car and go for a drive, or get your team to get in their cars and go for a drive. And whether you're sitting in traffic and bored or you're out in the countryside, what you tend to notice when you go for a drive is the ideas just appear in front of you. So you're creating the environment where you can be more creative on your own. I've got an overexcited clicker. Third is get some exercise. I hate exercise. I'm not an exercise fan at all. But going for a walk works for me. And for you, it might be going for a run. People often say, who likes to go for running? Ideas come when you go running. Again, it's that same pattern of clearing your mind. Okay, exercise is important. Fourth one is asking questions rather than answering them. It's really critical that when you sit in a space where you're trying to create an idea on your own, is you start with a list of questions. Because what we often find, and this is the anxiety-provoking thing with creative thinking, is you're trying to answer a question. And you don't know what the answer is yet, but you put the pressure on yourself, go, I must try and find an answer to this. But start with asking questions. So some of the questions could be, what would another brand do in this situation? What are some ideas that have happened before that I like? What's an ad campaign I've seen recently that I like? What's something that I heard on the breakfast show this morning that made me laugh? Find a question that you can ask which you can start the creative process. Again, it's the reverse of blank page thinking. And the final one is to get in the shower. I don't know who that is. Just Google Rockstar shower, you'll get that picture. So getting in the shower is really important in the same way that driving and exercise is because there's that sensation of the warm water, usually on the back of your neck, and you're standing there and you can relax, and ideas come to you. So again, from experience, most people report these things are more effective than trying to get into a brainstorm. So when you have to create ideas with others, so they're the things you could do yourself. Creating ideas with others, again, there are some principles that work. The first thing is to get on the internet. Now, who has been in a brainstorm or creative session and the first thing the person who's running it says, everyone put away your phones? Why? Get out your phones. The internet is the greatest tool for inspiration that has ever been invented. Yet what we choose to do is don't get distracted. No, we want you to get distracted. Getting distracted is really important because if you've got a brief for breakfast show marketing, do you think it's more effective to sit there and look at the walls or out the window to try and think of an idea? Or do you think it's more effective to Google breakfast show marketing to start with some inspiration and ingredients to get the ball rolling? Because you've got to remember with ideas, there's no such thing as a new idea. Everything is an iteration of something else and everything has been recreated to suit a circumstance. So getting out the internet and that, those magical moments where you go down the rabbit hole and you 10 minutes later you've been searching, you think, how in the hell did I end up here? But it's that journey of discovery. It's the stuff that you can do to try and influence your idea generation process. So in a group situation, get out your phones, get online. Should always be the warm-up exercise. And it doesn't matter where people go. The more adventurous and wild and different, the better. The second thing is work as a duo. There's a great, huge piece of research and a great book out called Powers of Two by a UK author. And he looked at creative pairs. And agencies know this, creative agencies know this. There's always two creative directors. Why is working as a duo really important? The bounce, the back and forth. We know this for on-air teams. We generally know this in business life. For every Steve Jobs, there's a Steve Wozniak. Okay? What you need to be able to do is you need to be able to say to someone you know who you can bounce off, hey, listen, I've got to create some ideas. Can I bounce with you? Can we work together? Because that bounce, when you're working with one person, is going to give and add more to your idea versus the example I gave you at the front, which is the start where the most dominant personality in the room takes the reins and everyone just follows. But working as a duo is really, really important. And there's lots of examples in that book I mentioned that talk about how it's important in business life as well as artistic pursuits. Can everyone close their eyes for me? I promise when you open your eyes, I won't be naked. Unless you want that, of course. No, okay. No, get people to close their eyes. Keep your eyes closed, because I'm just going to give you a little challenge now. I want you to imagine a billboard in Piccadilly Circus, and I want you to imagine that you have to promote the business that you work for, whether that be a radio station or anything else. And I want you to think about the very first word that you would put on that billboard. And then I want you to think about the colour that word would be in. And then I want you to think about a picture that goes with it. And I want you to open your eyes. So you took yourself there, right? Did you take yourself to the location I mentioned and put yourself in the billboard? We don't do that in idea generation. We sit around with blank piece of paper, go, what's a good marketing campaign idea? What could we put on the billboard? Oh no, why don't we put our logo and just put oh yep, sure, okay, that's really innovative, great. But when you close your eyes, or you get people to close their eyes, you take them to the location or the place or the problem you're trying to solve, no matter what that's for. Closing your eyes is one of the most unused and underutilised sensory experiences. But when you think about dreaming, daydreaming, subconscious thinking, closing eyes becomes really quite critical. Alcohol. Yep, really important. I'm going to grab some of my props here if I can. So I do a little session called the Ideas and Beers session, which, no surprise, is a creative thinking session in a pub, right? So I'm just going to hand out some of these because, can I give you some of those to hand back? Thank you. I'll do the middle aisle here. Thank you, sir. The Ideas and Beers session is really important because what does alcohol do to the creative process? It relaxes people. But often we kind of find ourselves in boring meeting rooms and we sit with notepads, all office-related things, right? Very official office-related things. And we sit there and we try and come up with ideas. But what happens in an Ideas and Beers session like I run is we get people together and they have conversations, real-world conversations about general things first. And then what happens is the ideas flow, because when it comes time to put the challenge to them about what you want to create, they've built some social rapport, they've broken the ice, and they feel more relaxed. Now, this is not about binge drinking as much as it is about binge thinking. This is about trying to get people to create better ideas by simply writing them on the back of a coaster as they would if you're having... And who's been to a pub and you've always had the best idea ever, right? You're like, oh, this would be great. Let's release a single to whatever you're doing. Doesn't matter. But the pub is really important. So alcohol becomes important. And the last thing is to change the scene. Prop number 2, thank you. I'll give you some to hand back. So what always amazes me is, thank you, people use notepads for idea creation because we just love our notepads, and sometimes you get those really fancy moleskins and you think, oh, that's really good, we'll do that. No, what you need to do is completely change things up. You will not get more innovative ideas if you're using the same tools as you go. So has anyone heard the phrase, great ideas start on the back of a napkin? Yeah, so I've produced my own napkins, right? Duh, it's really simple. So basically it just says great ideas start here, because there's something about simulating the idea generation experience when you're sitting there, and I send people out to cafes, change the scene completely, don't be in a meeting room, and write your ideas down on the back of a napkin, because what you start to think about is, this idea could be really big, because great ideas have started on napkins, so I'm going to try and replicate that process. So it's really important to do, okay? Change the scene. So, again, brainstorming. Bullshit. Yep, got that message. But what I do for the idea generation process on the left-hand side is things you can do yourself. And on the right-hand side is when you're working with others. Don't do it in a group. Pairs or duos is a really critical part. But try and find those elements that you can do yourself or with others that are anything but a brainstorm, okay? You just do one of these things and don't go to a brainstorm, and that'll make a massive difference. Thank you.
So good, thank you so much.